As my kids are getting older and they're entering the business world, one of the things that I've learned that I always caution them is before you get into business with somebody, understand how they make their money. And I think that there's a broad application to this in business building and in making good decisions about business partners, but also I think reflectively, I think there's good information reflectively, like how do you make your money and how do people make their money? I think there's some work to do around this that I'm excited to do and dig into. As I thought about it, right off the bat, I came up with 5 different ways that people make their money. Because my kids would ask me, well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by find out how people make their money? And I had to have a good answer for that. So I thought about it a little bit, and I was going to share that with you here today. The first thing they asked me was, what do you mean by that? So I came up with 5 different categories, at least I've observed, as to how people make their money. But the second thing is can you be more than one type? And I think the answer is absolutely yes. And I think that people are usually 2 or 3 different ways that they make their money. But understanding who you are, how you want to make your money is critical in figuring out how you spend your time, how you invest your capital, how you think about risk inside of business opportunities, and also how you think about people or impact inside of that. Because each of these different 5 types have different profiles that go with them. So they are, number 1, are you a contributor? You can be an individual contributor or a contributor in a team inside of a company. You can be a wage, a commission, W-2 type person inside of that. Number 2, are you a transactor? Somebody that makes money on transactions, which I find to be a fascinating type of individual moneymaker. 3, are you a compounder? Is that how you make your money? Where you invest in different businesses or you invest in stocks or even rental property. Are you a creator or are you a creative, which is typically an author or a writer or somebody like that? Or are you a builder of businesses where you take a longer view and not only are you looking for cash flow, you're also looking for enterprise value. So let's walk through there. So number 1, contributor. You could be you're working usually in somebody else's world. Somebody else has created a business, somebody else has created a business methodology, and you're working inside of it. If you're a contributor, you may trade time for dollars. You may trade results for dollars and get paid a commission on what you bring. But basically, somebody else has defined a game and you've decided that you want to play inside of that. Are people involved? Absolutely. It depends on the situation. Is there risk involved? And can you make an impact? Absolutely. Working for a company or working inside of a model, you can obviously have all of those opportunities to you. These are generally low risk. And what else do you get for being a contributor inside somebody else's model? Well, first of all, it's low risk. You didn't write the check to have to get involved with it. As a matter of fact, you're getting checks probably from day one. You can get experience in learning how to do something. So most people who have built something did it working somewhere else first. So there's an experience, there's an opportunity to make contacts and to get inside of an industry. There's flexibility inside of that sometimes, mainly because if everything goes to crap, then you're not the one that has to spend days, weeks, or months, or even years untangling the mess. And 3, you can get exposure to things maybe you wouldn't have. You might get to travel. You might get to meet other people in the industry. So really, being a contributor is a great opportunity for people who are looking for that. Number 2, a transactor. I find this to be very fascinating. So people who are looking to make money inside of every transaction. It's any type of broker out there. Anybody who's going to middle a situation, you're going to have somebody else who's built an asset, you're going to have somebody else who wants the asset, and you're going to be in the middle of that, and you're going to be extracting a fee from that transaction. Does quality matter? Not always, because you're just there to make sure that customer B gets it from provider A, and as long as that deal closes, you're going to get your commission, you're going to get your fee, you're going to get whatever it is that you get for helping them consummate the deal. More volume, more money, more. So at the end of the day, speed and velocity matters. Getting more transactions, getting more commissions, getting more fees. Quality, not so much. And the cost, does the cost matter? Yes, because you are getting transaction fees. You want to make sure that you are investing as little as possible. So making sure that you're acquiring leads, for these transactions, or that you're maintaining a very low and efficient overhead inside of that, because the money that you get in transaction fees minus what it costs you to produce it is what's going to be left for you at the end of the day. So like I said, any type of broker, anybody who's looking to get to the table to close a deal, ABC, always be closing. And honestly, from people perspective, they only matter when they're right in front of you signing whatever it is they have to sign for you to get your fee. After that, the transaction's over, shake their hand, they're off to the next thing, but you'll may or may not ever see them again unless they have another similar type of transaction. Realtor would be a good example of that. So it's a lower risk type model because, again, you're trading on assets that other people have built that you didn't have to. And just for a small one-time fee, you help them consummate a transaction. You scrape the table and you move on to the next transaction. The third type of moneymaker is a compounder. This is the type of individual contributor who might day trade. The compound interest, they say, is the eighth wonder of the world, and it works positively and negatively. Now, I will say, you can't save yourself into prosperity. You have to invest your money, but the money that you save, invested properly over time, grows exponentially. Check me on the math here, but I think $1,000 invested over 25 years at either 8 or 10% ends up being worth $65,000. So every time I look back in my life and I say, well, 20 years ago I blew $10,000 or $20,000. Well, you multiply that, every $1,000, if I had it today and I had invested it properly, would be worth $65,000. I actually do a weekly coaching call with a guy this morning, and he asked me, he said, if you went back 25 years, which actually triggered this whole thought process for me to get this on paper, but if you went back 25 years and you wanted to have triple the money that you had today, what would you do? And all of my answers were around paying attention to being a compounder and taking advantage of the time value of money. So, rental property owner, right? You're not going to get rich on a single renter property, but over time, if other people are paying it down and you're making some money on that transaction every month, and if I think the average historical rate of real estate appreciation over time is 7%, so you're paying down the mortgage, maybe 5% a year, you're increasing the value of the property 7% of the year, that's 12% compounding any cash flow that you're putting in your pocket, minus any repairs and anything, paying attention to your cost, that is going to compound over time. So he asked me, because I've had, maybe a dozen properties over the course of my life and done very, very well with them. So he said, what would you do differently? I said, well, I would have made sure that I found the time to have 100 of those or 200 of those over time. When I was living in South Florida, there was townhomes and condominiums that I could have bought for $100,000. And those are worth sometimes now $1.5 million, $2 million today. And that was about 30 years ago. So if you see, making sure that you're looking at appreciable assets, whether that be investing in stock, we're an early adopter to Salesforce. Back in the early 2000s, if I would have spent $100 a month putting it in Salesforce.com, just like I was putting in each of my kids' 529 plans for their college, I would have a big chunk of money in Salesforce.com. Same would go for Apple and these other things. So, and it doesn't mean you have to make a big investment, but just a little bit over time, being a compounder. And I know people that day trade stocks and basically sit in their own home, and they don't have a staff, they don't have a team. They study, they invest, and they pay close attention to their money, and that's all that they ever have to do. So that's a third type of moneymaker. So we've covered the contributor, who is generally working inside of a company for somebody. We've covered a transactor, who is somebody that's middling transactions and extracting a fee on it. We've covered the compounder, who is somebody that's going to take advantage of the eighth wonder of the world, which is compound interest. Now we're moving on to the creator or the creative. These are usually individual contributors who have a talent that matters more to them than money at the end of the day. So this could be a photographer or a videographer. It could be a musician. It could be an artist. It could be an author or a writer or even a speaker who might have a small staff, an assistant or somebody, but ultimately they're creating content and they're monetizing it as best they possibly can, but they are working inside of what they love to do every day, what they're passionate about, what their true talents are. So that's a fourth way for you to make money. And obviously, with social media, you see how YouTube creators and Instagram creators can make a lot of money, but they're still, and they've turned that into a business. They've taken their creative and they've become a business builder around it. I think Mr. Beast has like 100 people on staff or something like that, which is kind of a small staff for like how much money that guy actually makes and how much he generates out of that business. But still, it all started with the creation of a video. You can see the creator, the artistic musicians and singers today, and how when you create something that is impactful, how much it can generate for somebody. So that's another way that people make their money, is by being a creator. And then there's the business builder. And we've said here, we're in the franchise space, and building businesses are a high-class asset, and you might take a longer view. Generally, if you're building a business, you need people. So you have a heart for people, and you're going to need to define games, find the people that you can trust and bring them along with you. It can be a passive, because early on, if the business is going to scale and you're building it, you need to get out of the way and allow and create systems, processes where the business can grow and can scale. And you really are creating multiple types of value when you're building a business, franchise or independent or otherwise. Number one, you're creating cash flow, which is really at the core of it. How are businesses valued? They're valued on cash flow. And I know that there's tech stocks and blue sky things and new internet things that get wild, crazy valuations based on what could be someday. But over time, it always gets back to cash flow. We have a great team. That's great. What's the cash flow? We have the best product in the market. Okay, that's good. That's called a competitive advantage. But the value of the enterprise is based on the cash flow of the business. And then that creates the enterprise value. So you're a business builder. That's really the fifth way to make money. So when I talk to my kids and I say, the first thing you need to learn about somebody, if you're thinking about working for them, working with them, creating a partnership, or getting involved with something they've got going on, when there's money involved, first thing you do, find out how people make their money, and you will be well served. And also be introspective, know thyself. What's the best way for you to make your money? Let me know in your comments below. Are you a contributor, a transactor, a compounder, a creator, or a builder? I'll talk to you next time. Thanks.